Hello and welcome to the Hyzer Flip Podcast, brought to you by Ultimate Disc Golfer. I'm Brunch.
And I'm Nald.
Every week, we'll be bringing you a conversation with an ultimate player turned disc golfer.
We hope that this podcast helps you on your journey through disc golf.
Without further ado, let's get into it. Thanks for joining us. Our guest on today's show is James Bress, a longtime Ultimate and Disc Golf player and currently a writer for Ultiworld Disc Golf. So let's get into our discussion. Hello, James. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. My name is James Bress. I started playing Ultimate at Amherst Regional High School back in the year 2000. A buddy of mine invited me to join intramurals with him and had no idea what I was getting into. He said it would be fun, gave it a try, got the bug really bad. So I played a couple years at Amherst High, played 5 years at UMass for Zoo Disc, and then some like various club experience in Massachusetts and DC later on. And now I'm back here, mostly playing just disc golf in Connecticut, except for the occasional reunion Masters tournament because I am that old now.
Nice. It might have been a while ago, but can you think back to your transition between the sports and how that kind of went?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like it's only a long time ago at this point in reality. It feels like pretty recent, but I think 2015 was my last season playing Ultimate, and the season ended. I was playing for this team called Darker Light. We got knocked out of regionals, and basically a buddy of mine had been gifted a bunch of used golf discs from his brother and our former coach. And we started throwing them around in a field basically as like a kind of like modified workout. Like we would throw them and then sprint to them or do shuffles or whatever. And just kind of picked it up from there. We found a couple courses nearby us. I was working in Springfield, Mass at that point. So Crane Hill in Wilbraham was like my home course for a little while. And yeah, I really haven't looked back since.
When you first started playing, were you willing to give up Ultimate right away, or not give up, but fully transition, or were you worried about the throwing form affecting your Ultimate form?
So I already was kind of like 1 foot out the door on Ultimate. We'd put in a lot of work training. Darker Light was a great team. It was really fun, but it just, you guys know, it takes a lot of time. It takes your weekends. It hurts, I was tired of my toenails falling off. Like I was pretty much ready to be done with it. And then me and my buddy Brent Anderson, like just throwing in that field, aiming at lacrosse nets, I have no idea, like 100 yards away. Once I figured out that there was some reason, behind the madness of how a golf disc acts, I just like completely dove in and really didn't go back at all. And yeah, I don't know, there was some concern. I remember very distinctly, I was at my buddy Joe's wedding, and at one point he got like a whole bunch of us together, like all former teammates and players and things like that. And we decided to like just launch some regular 175s, like kind of off this cliff into the woods. And I remember holding it. And one of the things I said to Brent really early was like, golf discs are fine, but it's never going to feel natural the way an Ultra Star feels natural in my hand. And I remember being at that wedding and being given an Ultra Star to throw and just being like, oh my God, I don't even know what this is. I don't know how it works, and I don't know what's going to happen. And of course we all launched them, and I have disc golf form now. So I'm throwing like standing up straight, like real flat, and it just turns and burns so quick. And everybody else's are gliding out into the sky, and I felt so stupid. But yeah, but in terms of like actually going back to Ultimate, I was just like, I would just rather play disc golf at this point. So I don't mind that my form has kind of switched over permanently.
No, it's funny you bring up that story of throwing the Ultra Stars, because so we have like we call it a golf course at school where we play. It's like trees that we aim at with our Ultimate discs. And I started playing disc golf for about a month, and then ended up going and playing a game of golf. And everyone's like, you're gonna be so good now. You've been playing a bunch of disc golf. I like had the worst score. I couldn't get the disc to fly straight. So yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about there. And I know some of what you just said with like the throwing at lacrosse nets and stuff, you wrote about that in your 6-part series on Ultiworld Disc Golf. What inspired you to write that series?
Yeah, it's a funny thing actually, because like I well, in terms of why I wrote it, it was strictly because I think in about 2017, Ultiworld put up an ad on like Reddit Disc Golf or somewhere, and they were looking for writers, and they were looking for tips writers and equipment review writers. And I was like, well, I definitely want to be sent some free equipment, so I got to apply. But I have no writing background. I have no portfolio or anything. So I was like, I need to come up with some stuff I can give them as an application, essentially. So I just started kind of going and just kind of writing. It became a series. It was just like one long story article that I ended up breaking up, and that was my application for Ultiworld Disc Golf. So it was actually written like 3-ish years ago, like a while back. And then they had it, and there wasn't really like a good time to run it. And then they were trying to find a sponsor, because I mentioned a bunch of like Innova discs in it, and they thought it would be cool if Innova would sponsor the series, which ultimately ended up happening, which is really neat. But there were just these things that kind of got in the way of it running. And then finally, once right before the pandemic hit, I got an email from Charlie Eisenhood, and he was just like, yeah, we're going, it's going up. And then all of a sudden there it was, and it was like really exciting to see. And it's gotten good feedback. It's been kind of cool, actually. I've met some people through it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we learned about you. So, and that's, I mean, besides the fact that you coached Aaron back in his youth days, but that's another story. I thought it was published during the pandemic because there was an uptick in Ultimate players being interested in disc golf. So I thought you were kind of beat the curve, but it ended up being just coincidental and came out at the perfect time.
It's funny because I mean, like I did like kind of remind them. I was like, hey, you guys still have this. Like I think it's good. I want people to read it. And there were legitimate reasons why it couldn't run. And then they got like 2 or 3 up on the site, and then quarantine hit, and Charlie was basically like, maybe we shouldn't be encouraging people to go out and do things in the middle of a quarantine. So there was this little break, and then the rest of them got up. But yeah, I definitely, I like mentioned Brody, like this is happening. I mentioned I'm on this, do you guys know the app Group Me? It's the only reason I know about it is because an old UMass teammate of mine put me on it, and it's got like a bunch of guys who are like on Ironside and stuff like that. And it's just like these Ultimate players that like I knew, as like celebrity status 5 years ago, and now they're all playing Ultimate. And I try to tell like all the disc golf guys around me here in Connecticut, it's like this wave is coming, and it's like Ultimate players are good at disc golf. I'm telling you, like it's just they're going to be really good, really fast. So yeah, I'm glad they got the series up when they did.
And I mean, I always compare throwing like a Frisbee to like learning how to throw a ball. When you're a kid and you first pick up, a baseball, you can't really throw it that far or that accurately. And it's the same thing with Frisbees, except for most people pick them up way later in life, like in college. Yeah. And the thing about disc golf is if you take someone who's never thrown any sort of Frisbee or disc before and you give him one, they're obviously not going to be that good. So Ultimate players who have spent years, throwing discs, we're not going to be great because it's a different disc, but that like the learning curve is way easier.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like you can imagine that it would be easier to teach somebody how to throw a baseball if they've been throwing a football their whole life,
right?
Rather than like, I don't know, swinging a hockey stick or something. And it's like, so yeah, there's of course an adjustment, and there's a couple of things that need to be different, but just whatever that muscle memory is of kind of like starting on your left side and swinging through, like it you get it pretty quick.
Yeah, no, definitely. And even like, I mean, you said it, but you see the Ultimate players going to disc golf right now. Like if you go on the r/Ultimate Reddit, there's nothing going on in the world of Ultimate right now in terms of playing. So like there's like almost a post a day about people playing disc golf, and it's a different subreddit, but it's interesting because it's something we noticed. And we started playing a few months ago, and we looked up, there's plenty of resources out there to help beginners at disc golf, but there's not much about helping Ultimate players because we're not like, so your article, your series is like the first thing that came up. And is really the only thing that came up. There's a few articles here and there from different blogs, but they're more like review blogs, and they're just trying to get you to buy, specific discs. And yours is the most informative of everything we found.
Good. I'm glad you saw it. I mean, but yeah, no, it's going to feel ridiculous, I think, in just a couple of years to look back and be like, there was nothing about this. Like, it was really just two different sports. It just seems like there's just a huge kind of mashup coming where people are aware of both things at the same time.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens once Ultimate's back, because I mean, I think I definitely am starting to miss it. I started using Tiger Balm on my elbow when I play disc golf because it's been sore, and the smell of Tiger Balm just hits me, and it just reminds me of like the Saturday night of a tournament, and it makes me want to go out and play. So it's funny. I hadn't really been missing it because I don't love running. So disc golf's great in that sense, but after a while it starts coming back to you.
For me, I'm definitely still in the mode of both. I'm still training pretty regularly for Ultimate, and I haven't put down the Ultrastar. And I don't plan on putting down the Ultrastar, and I still pick it up to make sure that it feels familiar and throw it around a little bit. But definitely trying to get the form more to throwing, overstable discs now. Yeah.
I mean, I know good Ultimate players who can toggle back and forth. It's not an impossibility. The important thing is you keep up with your training. It's like, it is extremely easy to one day start convincing yourself, like, yeah, sure. Like, I walked 18 holes. That's exercise, right? Like, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe not for you guys. You're quite a bit younger.
Yeah, it depends what age you're at.
Yeah, that's. I fell into that trap pretty bad, and it's been a pretty shocking thing to realize. Like, actually, for a lot of my life, I was in pretty good shape just because of Ultimate. Whether it was like actively training or practices or just playing pickup games on a regular basis. Like, once that goes, it's like it goes fast, and it's shocking. But you can play both. There's no rule against it.
Yeah. So going back to your initial transition into disc golf, I'm curious. So like Brunch and I started out, and we shot pretty inconsistently at first, but we're pretty like hyper competitive people just out of, as Ultimate players. I'm curious, like, what your first year looked like, how quick it took for you to be, what you considered good, or shooting what you were expecting, or, that type of stuff.
I don't know when I started to consider myself good. All right. So first year starting playing was like throwing in a field with Brent, and then finding a course nearby. Like, there's a little course called Ecker Hill in Connecticut, and Crane Hill I mentioned, and just kind of playing and basically like kind of trying to get down to par, but mostly focused on just learning how to throw different discs. I remember really clearly I managed to get into this tournament at this tiny little course called Loughbury, which is like just in the middle of Connecticut. And I signed up for intermediate because I figured rec would probably be like, I had been playing a little bit at that point. I was like, maybe the bottom level is not where I belong. So I played intermediate and ended up winning that division by a couple strokes. And at the end of it, it's like a, like tradition, I guess. Everybody chants move up at the winners of each division. And I didn't know a single person there. It was so uncomfortable. I was like in like one of my Ultimate jerseys, and I was just like kind of off to the side, like basically hoping somebody would like take note of me and see how like, babe in the woods I was. And like everybody just already knew each other. So I was just off to the side, and I call my name and I go get my little paper trophy, and everybody starts yelling, move up, like move up. And I felt so bad. I was like, how could I have known? I didn't know, like where my skill was relative to other people. So immediately moved up to AM1, played a few tournaments at that. And then I think that takes me out of the first year, but it wasn't really that long after that. Do you guys know about Team Challenge? Have you heard about New England Team Challenge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met someone walking around Cambridge who is in the Rhode Island Team Challenge. Cool.
Okay. Yeah. So like I ended up, discovering like the local leagues and things like that. And then playing a league, I had like an especially good night at some doubles league with my buddy Dan, who plays for Team Wickham Park. He invited me to that, and that was fantastic in terms of getting a little bit more ingrained in the scene, kind of getting to know people, but also just suddenly having a bunch of like local pros and good players who I could steal from. You know, at some point, this guy, Big Nick on the team, we were playing some doubles tournament or something, and I had said I was gonna sign up for another tournament in AM1, and he's like, dude, like, you're on WIC now, you have to play pro. And I was like, really? Is that a thing? Is that how it is? And he's like, oh yeah, you definitely have to play pro, no more amateur. And so I signed up for pro the next time and mentioned that to somebody else on the team. And they're like, don't listen to Nick. He like, what is, like, he's still playing AM. Like, you don't have to do that.
He just didn't want the competition. He wanted you out of the AM.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. So, so I think, I mean, I don't know. I could bring up my PDGA page or whatever, but I think I started playing in the pro division by the end of my second year. I rarely win, but I often am in the top half, and didn't like think too much about myself relative to other people. You start playing these tournaments and you get like a rating and you get these tournament finishes, and then all of a sudden it's just like you can tell there's this switch where it goes from like, if you're playing like a doubles league and you're looking at like who are the good players, like if I get matched up with one of those guys, like maybe I have a chance to win my money back. And then like one day you sort of realize that people look at you as the person who could potentially help them win their money back. It's like extremely flattering and also nerve-wracking.
I think it's the same thing at Ultimate too. Like, I came in as a freshman, never playing the sport before, and was looking up to all these. They put me on D-line because that's where you go if you don't know how to throw a frisbee.
Yep.
But I was looking up to all these great players. Before I knew it, I was a junior, senior on the team, and I'm the one that people are going to ask for how to like play this sort of defense. So that was a strange thing, because like, I've only been playing for 2 years, and now, you know, I'm the expert in this area on this team. So
yeah, no, I feel that.
So another thing, do you have a go-to like disc manufacturer? Do you play with an Innova or Discraft, or how does that go for you?
Yeah, I like early on, you know, kind of like fell into it, found a few Innova discs at Dick's Sporting Goods, right. Bought those, then quickly found like the online vendors and just started ordering like from everywhere. And very quickly realized that, like, you know, the obvious, that there's lots of overlap, but also that I was like going to go broke if I just kept buying discs from every single manufacturer. So I just kind of looked at what I had and looked at what I liked. And at this point, I really don't throw anything. I just don't throw anything that is not from Innova. And I don't really know what their deal is, but like, I think somehow like Discmania is like an offshoot of Innova, or they use the same equipment. I think Millennium is the same thing. Like, they use Innova's like, you know, machinery to produce their own disc. I really have no idea how it works, but it's pretty much
right.
Yeah. So it's Innova, Millennium, and Discmania is what I throw.
Nice. What are some discs you'd recommend for, you know, Ultimate players just starting out?
So I actually just sent like 2 care packages to some friends in DC who are similarly like, I think it's time. Like, we're all old now. It's time to actually pick up this this disc golf. And so what I've been sending them is AVRs, like DX or KC Pro rocks, and T-Birds. And I think that's the way to go. Like, AVR is the best putter. A rock will teach you how a disc can change its flight characteristics really quickly. They start off super overstable, and then they get straight, and then they get flippy, and you can kind of grow with it in just a few months, or, you know, like less if you're playing regularly. And then, I don't know. I mean, if you go on like Reddit Disc Golf and you look at one of those threads about new players, everybody is just like, don't throw over speed 7 until, you know, some unknown time in the future. And I think that actually is really good advice. The thing that I tell my friends is basically like when you can throw the T-Bird like far, and you'll just kind of know when it's going far and it's flying straight and it's landing mostly straight, then you should move up. I like the qualification for me has always been like, can you throw on a straight line? Because you see people cheating and they'll throw like outside in and let it swoop back and stuff like that. It's like, I think you know where you are when you can throw a disc a long way and have it fly and land straight. That's always been my goal.
I know for me, it was like the first time I bought my first disc back in like middle school. I was actually on Martha's Vineyard visiting a friend, and they had a disc golf shop out there.
Nice.
And we went in, and the guy sold us the disc, and I got a DX Cheetah, which is not one that's I think too common nowadays. But I threw it for a bit and then put it away for 6-7 years, or no more, 8 years, I guess. I came back to it, just like a few months ago, and when I finally got that thing to go straight and land straight, like I think I was throwing on a football field, so I got it to the 300 feet line. The whole field going pretty straight. That was a pretty exciting moment. And then I also, at that point, I was like, okay, I'm sick. I need to go buy a bunch of high-speed discs, which was its whole own challenge of getting those to fly straight.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't start playing until 2015, but back in high school in like 01 and 02, our coach, Tina Booth at Amherst High, used to be a really avid disc golfer. And I have learned since that she used to like host tournaments and that was like really, she was way into the scene. She's one of the people who like gave us those hand-me-down discs. And back in high school in the summer, she would take us disc golfing. So we'd go to Buffinville in Charlton, Mass, and Barry Falls in Barry, Mass. And I remember like, we bought some of like the early Champion plastic. It must have been because it was like early 2000s. But it just felt like, to me, like basically just throwing $20 bills into the woods because I lost them all. And so I opted for the cheap ones, and then I got frustrated, and then I didn't buy them. And now I'm looking at it, and it's like, man, like if I had those discs that I bought in 2001, like they'd be valuable now. I'm sure that was like some of the nice like KC Pro, like first run, this or that. I don't know. It's wild to think that I had my hands on them back then and just didn't even. I was just like, this is stupid. Wait, why would you play this? This is like Ultimate without all the good parts. And then fast forward 15 years, and it's like, I'd rather be stationary. This is actually better.
Relating back to Tina, I guess. Right. So
she'd make
improving
a
an ultimate
great podcast.
Yes, she would.
Sorry.
Improving and ultimate disc golf are, two related but different things. And a lot of it has to do with who you can learn from.
Yeah.
In ultimate, it helps a lot to have, designated coaches and a lot of teammates that you're always with. How have you found that to be different, or like how does disc golf compare to that? I know you're playing in leagues and playing with buddies and stuff.
I think the thing that is the biggest difference is just when I started playing disc golf in 2015, I don't actually know, but I think like Jomez had just started, and Central Coast had a couple videos up. And so being able to watch like actual top professionals play through YouTube was fantastic. Cause like Ulta Village, do you guys remember Ulta Village, or is that too far back? Yeah. Like, I don't know.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like Ulta Village had clips, and then Ultiworld started putting stuff online. And I think you can learn how to be a better ultimate player by watching video of other players, but like unless you're doing like actual film study to think about more like how a team works together, it's basically just like, I don't know, maybe that person's just faster than you, maybe they're just better at throwing. There's not that much to learn. But as far as disc golf goes, I really like, once I kind of just embraced the nerdiness and was like, I'm going to try to get good at this, putting it on slow motion, like just watching Paul Macbeth throw tee shots like 15 times in a row, and just trying to figure out how his feet move and how his arms move and where his head goes. That was so informative and just so beneficial in a way that I don't think it could have been in Ultimate.
Yeah, it's hard to analyze Ultimate film anyways, right? You can't do that slow-mo zoom in on one player very well, especially even now with higher quality film. It's filmed from 30 feet up in the air or whatever.
Right.
I think Ultimate Film also is a lot more to actually like get something out of it. Kind of like you were saying, you need to know what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. You can just, it's one thing to watch the disc fly around, but it's another thing to like analyze what a certain person's doing on defense, or how this handler's reading the field, and what they're looking at.
Right.
And for me, I talked, my friends will make fun of me for this, but in high school, I played football, and we spent a lot of time watching film and dissecting it, and watching football for film is very different than watching football for fun. And when I got to Ultimate, is that most people, when they watch Ultimate film, they're not watching it for film, they're watching it for fun. Like they don't really know how to make that difference. So, a lot of times you watch an Ultimate game, not so much because you want to get better at the sport, or at least you might think you are, but you're watching it to be entertained and to just, watch Jimmy Mickle throw a bomb. So
yeah, in 2010-ish range, maybe somewhere around there, I'd already been playing for like a decade, and Ben Wiggins put out like this whole, I forget what his little brand was called, but like he put up a bunch of tutorial videos where it would just be him, like under the lights, like just showing, here's how I throw an around forehand, here's how I throw a low release backhand, and things like that. And I watched him, like he was a Callahan winner. It's like, I can definitely learn something from this guy. And basically what I found was like, it was a lot of stuff that I already knew, but had never articulated, either out loud or to myself. And then there was a lot of other stuff where I was just like, actually, that's uncomfortable and doesn't feel better. And so I think there is something to be said for just like you'll find people who have been playing disc golf for 15 years, and they'll have some bad habits that are just built into their form so concretely, either because when they started, the only thing they could throw was DX cheetahs or whatever, it's like the farthest flying disc available. And so their form is super inside out, like Hyzer Flip kind of style, or maybe it goes the other way. And I don't know. I think my ultimate form, like it got settled to a point where I wasn't learning new things. And then everybody shows up their lefty backhands instead of around forehands. I was like, I'm out, I'm done.
So you're gonna have to play with both hands. That's the way the sport's going.
Yeah, apparently.
I kind of had that. I always had, so when I started playing Ultimate, I had a lefty backhand. I right lefty, but I always threw balls and stuff with my right hand. Okay. So I had a lefty backhand, but a righty flick. And my righty flick was actually my most powerful throw. But, having two throws on the same side doesn't do you much good in either sport, Ultimate or disc golf.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to throw a flick on my left side. So I've developed this lefty flick. But even to this day, like 4 years, I've been practicing playing like fully lefty. But to this day, I still can throw flicks on my right hand better than with my left hand.
It is weird how that happens. Like so I'm definitely a righty. I right-handed. I throw discs right-handed, but I dribble left-handed. I play lacrosse and hockey left-handed. Mm-hmm. I'm way better at shooting a basketball left-handed. I've always said that Ultimate just jacked up my right side where it's all out to the side. So I used to try to shoot a basketball and my arm would flare out to the side like I was throwing a flick. And one day I was like, you know what, let's just try some free throws in the left hand. And it's just like a straight catapult. Like I'm not good at it, but at least it goes where I want it to. And yeah, I don't know. It's weird how you can't shake that kind of thing.
I think the muscle memory too, it's not, Ultimate, it's a rotation. The power comes from the rotation,
Yeah.
Your arm isn't doing that much. So you watch, I know a lot of people that play baseball that get into disc sports, either disc golf or Ultimate, they have really strong flicks because that's what their batting rotation is as a righty. I think that was part of it for me because I also played tennis in high school, and as a righty playing tennis, like a forehand shot in tennis is a righty flick. So that's where my muscle memory came from.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I've noticed it myself. Like my forehand in disc golf has been really slow to develop because I spent so long pivoting out onto my right foot. And for a disc golf forehand, you really want to step into your left foot. I haven't played a sport since, I don't know, Babe Ruth baseball or whatever, where I had any weight going into my left foot. It's been really hard to learn that rotation. So yeah, I think you're right. Some sports translate better than others.
Yeah, I think I got kind of lucky with that. I've actually developed a forehand in disc golf easier than most Ultimate players are developing forehands. And that's because I play a lot of ball golf and I played baseball up through high school. And I've always had my Ultimate flick has always been a very high arm flick. Like I use a lot of arm in my in my motion, probably more than you would teach a beginner to use. And so that it's translated pretty well. I'm able to use flicks just as much as I use backhands in disc golf.
It's nice because in Ultimate you always overthrew us with your flicks, but now there's no such thing. You can just launch them.
That's true. I always had the problem, James, of throwing my flicks too low and flat in Ultimate, and that's perfect. I was really just training for disc golf the whole time.
It's created a lot of good highlights for our quick cutters, so a lot of laying out.
That's good. It's all about making other people look better.
Exactly. Yeah, you look at the bright side there. To wrap this up, we'll ask you a few more like fun questions. So you said you've been playing a lot of solo rounds recently with COVID. Do you listen to anything like music or podcasts while doing that?
Yeah, I bought a pair of earbuds, and it's really nice to just kind of go out. I don't know. I mean, I think in terms of podcasts, it's no one thing in particular. I listen to like some ringer podcasts about sports and things like that. But I don't know. Just, Spotify has been great. Like find new music out on the course and just kind of zone out. If that gets old, it's nice to just be in the woods. Like it's just really calming to be out on a hike with something to do, by yourself.
I feel that same thing. It's like I'll start by listening to music, and then as I can't hit any putts, I blame it on the music and just listen to the woods. Do you have a favorite non-disc sport to play? So not Ultimate or disc golf?
Oh man. No.
It's a fine answer.
But you're a professional disc golfer, so you don't have time for that.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it is. No, I don't know. I mean, I like games, I guess, where you throw things at another thing, but a lot of it just comes back to I would often rather just like play catch for 2 hours than do anything else. But I don't know, like I had like a little stint of playing pickup basketball and stuff like that. But no, I don't know. It also cornhole, like stuff like that. At UMass, we had this great game called Swag Ball. That you basically take 2 like rectangular recycling bins and you put them, 30 yards, 20 yards away from each other. And with 175s, you get a point for skipping it off the top, and you get 3 points for sinking it. And I don't know if that just is the what Can Jam is. Like I've never actually
like homemade Can Jam.
Yeah, that's
But you're
version 1.
You're reverting back to a disc sport. So
I know that's the thing. It's like I can't get away from it. I only like throwing one object. So
awesome. Where can people find out more about you or reach out to you?
Yeah, my phone number and address and
social security.
I think probably the easiest way is to like find those Ultiworld Disc Golf articles, because my email is up in those, just bress.james@gmail. And I don't know, like I can't remember if I said this before or after we started recording, but I've actually met a couple people who like have emailed me and been like, hey, I read your articles. Would you care to meet up for a round? And it's been kind of a cool thing to get introduced to new people that way. So I'm certainly open to, if I don't know. I mean, like, what do I know? I'm not like actually an expert. I just wrote some articles positioning myself that way. But if people ever wanted to reach out to me.
I mean, that's exactly how we found you. So great. That's all we got.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. This has been the Hyzer Flip Podcast by Ultimate Disc Golfer. For more great Ultimate and disc golf content, make sure to check out ultimatediscgolfer.com and follow @Ultimate Disc Golfer on Instagram. Thanks for listening. Have a nice day.